When you start learning to code, there is one important question you have to answer: which programming language to choose. There are dozens of options, but for me the answer is simple: you should bet on JavaScript. And I have at least 3 good reasons to do it. It's hard to assess which programming language is simple and which is not. Different things are difficult for different people. For example, driving is easy for many people, but it's not for me. We can try to assess the difficulty of the language based on 3 features: the complexity of the language itself, the availability of good learning resources, and the difficulty of setting up the developer environment. JavaScript is fairly simple. It is one of the high-level languages. What it means is that you don't have to worry about many complex things like memory management. High-level languages are designed to make you productive as fast as possible, while at the same time taking away some of the power of the low-level languages. Also, JavaScript is fairly logical. It has its quirks, but overall it's quite straightforward. There are tons of resources. JavaScript learning resources are everywhere. You are just one Google search away from dozens of tutorials and courses. So, only thing you have to do is pick a teacher with the teaching style that suits you and start learning. Courses and tutorials are not everything. Eventually, you'll have to start coding on yourself, and that means you'll bump into trouble. Fortunately, JavaScript's popularity means there's a huge community, and the people are ready to help you. So whenever you get stuck, you can go to Stack Overflow and GitHub issues and find answers to your questions. You can start coding right now. Many programming languages require you to set up a developer environment or download a certain code editor. It's not the case with JavaScript. JavaScript is pre-installed in your browser, so if you want, you can start coding right now. I can show you how to do it. Just open Developer Tools, go to Console, and you can go. Of course, it's not a perfect environment, but you can use any code editor you like. Alternatively, you can find online editors and start coding there and see the effects immediately. For example, you can use CodePen or JSFiddle. JavaScript is versatile. JavaScript runs the web. Over 97% of pages use JavaScript. So if you want to go into front-end development, you have to learn it. It doesn't matter if you want to start at Google or a small startup, JavaScript is everywhere. But front-end development is not everything. You can do so much more with JavaScript. You prefer building mobile apps? JavaScript is there for you. Maybe you don't want to make user interfaces but prefer backend logic? You can do it in JavaScript. Do you want to build a desktop app? JavaScript is there for you. You can even analyze big data with JavaScript if you want. The world is your oyster. There is also a second aspect to JavaScript versatility. You may not know or even care, but there are different paradigms in programming. There is imperative programming, object-oriented programming, functional programming, and not every language supports all of them, but JavaScript does. So you can pick the paradigm you want and learn it and use it. The flexibility of the language allows you to use any paradigm you want, and when you will move on to a different language, it will be much easier to learn. JavaScript is in demand. If you're a good JavaScript developer, you will find a high-paying job. According to a DevSkill report, JavaScript is the most demanded technical skill. Also, 72% of positions require some kind of JavaScript knowledge. So it's quickly becoming a must-have skill. Also, salaries are on the rise. Depending on the country, they differ greatly, but to give you some perspective, here are the average salaries of JavaScript developers in a few countries. What are you waiting for? Go and learn JavaScript.